All right. I am very excited for today's guest. You guys, you have heard from the growers themselves. You have heard from our scientists that we have working at Ocean Spray. And I reached out. I have a couple of connections, and now I've got the big guns here with us today. So please help me welcome Mr. Tom Hayes, who happens to be the CEO of Ocean Spray. So, Tom, thank you so much for making time for us today and answering some burning questions for us.
Oh my goodness. Always a pleasure to be talking to our owners. So yeah, thank you for having me, Amber. And I think this is going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to chatting. So thanks for having me.
Well, I know as a grower myself, I have some pretty big questions for you, and I think our listeners would be really interested to hear kind of a little bit of the backstory of Ocean Spray because it is kind of a very different company. It is a grower-owned co-op. So maybe would you like to start by introducing yourself and maybe a little bit of the history on how you came to Ocean Spray?
Sure thing. Yeah. So I've been with the co-op now for almost 2.5 years, I guess, and I came from another manufacturer of food, Tyson Foods, and Tyson was Hillshire Brands before that, Sara Lee before that. But I guess the my whole career, so 35 years in the business, I'm kind of a one-trick pony. All I've ever done is food, and so here I am. And yeah, I really was thrilled to hear about the opportunity, to lead Ocean Spray, and it's a big responsibility. We have 700 some odd owners that are counting on our team to do whatever we can to make the most money we can, both in the short and long term. And that's what's unique about this opportunity is it's a co-op, which is a wonderful thing, owned by our farmers, and everything that we do benefits them. And there's a huge responsibility, but at the same time, it's very compelling in terms of a purpose for our people and for me.
Has there been kind of a big change going from a large company like Tyson into more of a co-op where it is farmer owned?
No doubt. Yeah. When you think of a large particularly a publicly traded company, the shareholders are people that you don't generally meet. I mean, you do in a sense that you would have meetings with, the fund owners like Vanguard or Fidelity or companies like that, BlackRock, but you wouldn't necessarily, be meeting retail investors on a regular basis. And, they didn't own, a very high percentage of the company on a collective level. So, knowing as many owners as I've gotten to know over the course of the last 2.5 years, and also just being in touch with everybody, whether it's through the vehicles of road shows or just the meetings that we have today, it's the key difference is you just have that connection where you as a public company, you don't. You're more just talking to analysts, people that are listening to and giving advice about what they hear the company's up to, but not speaking to the ownership firsthand. And so that, for starters, is a really big difference. And the other thing is just, the sort of singular focus that we have, which is taking a crop, cranberries, and making the most out of that crop as we possibly can, versus taking many ingredients, from many different, whether it's a crop or animals, and making food products. There's just a absolute clarity in terms of what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah, and I think one of the coolest things about being an Ocean Spray grower is again putting you guys always have been putting the grower on a lot of your packaging and making it more about the farmer and less about the product. So would you mind kind of explaining how a co-op kind of works for the farmers, and what that means for us as kind of like our boss, our CEO?
Yeah. So the working as a cooperative, everything that we do impacts the farmer in one way or another. And so there could be, at the very simplest terms, of course, we take the fruit, we make as much money as we can through the products that serve consumers. And I would argue really great products, high quality products, and then turn as much as we can to the growers in the short term, also investing for the long term. So if it's capital investments or investments in marketing, things are going to make the company stronger over time. Everything that we do is based on the proceeds that we get from the fruit that the farmers deliver to us. And being in a role of leadership, I think the thing that is continuing to be a challenge for everybody, and not just me, my leadership team, and everybody that works for the co-op, is to make sure we're constantly striking that balance. I mean, better than anybody, Amber, that there's a lot of cost pressures in the farm today. The co-op, meaning the products and the plants and so forth, are feeling the burden of trying to make sure that we're making the most money given the inflation on the farm, at the same time dealing with inflation that consumers are seeing in their daily lives. So it's said in one word, the big takeaway is responsibility. There's a huge responsibility that the whole team feels.
Yeah, definitely. In kind of going back a little bit, you mentioned the road show, and we just had one, I think, later this summer. And I briefly talked to you when you were here in Wisconsin,
yeah.
And you said that you had just come from Canada, or you were going to Canada, and you were out east, and you were just traveling all over the country in 24 hours. So would you mind kind of explaining the road show and how you get to interact with all the growers during that time?
Yeah, sure. So, with the pandemic, I think it's fairly good at doing these virtual road shows and we just had one last week where we'll provide a forum where the management speaks, myself, my leadership team, around, all the things that we're doing, all the, good or bad as it relates to, things we're facing, good news, bad news, I should say. And then taking questions. The questions are, typed in, and we respond to them live, of course, but they're typed in because of the numbers of folks we're trying to reach on these road shows. The in-person road shows were so much more exciting, right? Because you have the chance to do the same thing, but you're actually hearing the farmers' voices. You're meeting with people and shaking hands and seeing, the concern on their faces or the smiles on their faces. It's just a way more fulfilling experience to have that face-to-face interaction. So that it was my first opportunity to do a in-person road show since joining the company. I know it's something that the company's done for a long time, but having the opportunity to see each of the regions of the cooperative, and then getting a sense back real time of their feelings and interactions was great. And it's good to meet people I hadn't met so far. So I mean, I have a chance only in a limited venue to see folks, and outside of the annual grower meeting that we have, the AGM, it was a special experience. It was we tried to do it, like you said, in a short period of time. So it was quick, but it was, I think, continues to be a really nice thing for us to do, and hopefully our ownership appreciates the interaction.
Yeah, and again, you bring a lot of your staff out on the road with you. So if growers do have questions, whether they be good or voice kind of some of their more serious concerns, we're able to voice those concerns or wins with you guys and let you guys know, like, hey, we don't like this. How can we change this? Or great job, I really like where this is heading. So it's a great interaction, I think, for everyone involved, and something that not a lot of other companies or industries really get to do, especially with upper management too. So that's, I think, again, something that really kind of sets us apart from a lot of other organizations.
Yeah, it really does. And it is a two-way street. We get a lot of great ideas, and we continue to try to take the best ideas from our owners. We have the grower council, as you know, we have a grower committee. We try to get the voice of ownership, at the table whenever we're having a chance to meet. Jeff LaFleur very well, our VP of Grower Relations, and Jeff sits on my staff. He's an integral part of the team. He's done a wonderful job for me, and continues to make sure that we don't forget what we're trying to do each week when we get together. And then also, there's a lot of times where we'll just have questions like, how will the ownership react to this? What will growers see as the biggest need or the thing to clarify? And because we are doing a lot and we're trying to make a big impact, he keeps us, grounded on what we should be, focused on, not only for just the work that we're doing, but then how we communicate and communicate effectively. And we don't always get it right, as you know. But I think that, having that two-way dialogue, whether it's through a roadshow or having, Jeff with us or the grower committee, is just super important to making sure that we do the best job we can.
Yeah, absolutely. So Ocean Spray, we have a wide variety of products now. So maybe let's rewind a little bit and kind of go back to the beginning. Would you mind kind of giving us a rundown of the entire history of Ocean Spray, where we started and kind of how we have grown over the years?
Yeah, so really exciting history starting back in 1930. And as three entrepreneurs got together, and I use that term lovingly because they weren't just farmers, they were entrepreneurs. They really wanted to create something special. And, it was their foresight when the cooperatives became a thing, and with the Capper-Volstead Act in the 1930s, they realized that, wow, we could do something great if we got together and use the power and our passion for cranberries and started to market them and then do things that we haven't done before, which is make different products. Of course, probably all know that the first best product was cranberry sauce. And then, juice followed that, and then juice blends, and then craisins. And so the co-op grew from, three our founding owners wanting to do something together and taking that innovative spirit into products. And that sort of has created the life that we know. And it's amazing if you think about a cooperative that is, 2 billion in sales, that to have that start from three farmers getting together and then with one crop and building, something that is, simultaneously innovative, but focused on, being as lean as possible and continuing to have the strength to continue for 100 years. I mean, I think that is something we should all be really proud of.
Yeah, and let that be a lesson to anybody out there listening too. If you have an idea, you might as well give it a shot because you never know where it could end up with. So that's pretty amazing that it was just three growers that started the entire company. So
100%.
have you kind of noticed any consumer trends over the years? I know everything kind of started with the sauces. Do you know if there was anything that kind of sparked the interest to start the juice blends or the juices? Have you noticed any sort of trends as far as that goes?
Yeah, where people love the benefits and the taste of a cranberry in terms of the tartness that it brings, but also, can be overpowering for some folks. And we pack a punch, like we say, our berries do. But so sugar has been a nice way to sort of balance that, and sugar in a natural sense, like natural sugar is in our 100% juice and so forth. But that is something that we continue to work on, lower sugar products, as well as using the power of our product as an ingredient. So we often talk about what sort of spurred the creativity and sauce and getting those products that we all know and love, like the blends. And blends were simply, an idea that was born out of trying to deal with the tartness of the cranberry and still maintain the ability to deliver the great, products we do to the consumer. One of the things that is continuing to build momentum is cranberry as an ingredient, and so that in a very basic sense, that's the blends. We're using cranberry as an ingredient for a finished product that is a blended juice. But as we continue to grow the business around the world, our sweetened dried cranberries have STCs have become a really powerful engine to drive more volume and earnings for the co-op, because gives us the ability to bring cranberries to people that didn't know what they were about. I mean, it's not as easy to deliver fresh cranberries, and they're not as versatile as using sweetened dried cranberries. Bringing those around the world to new countries, our international team has been doing a wonderful job of that. But then it's just continuing to think outside of the box. What are the new forms and uses that consumers might want? Do we have reason to develop new blends that might not be cranberry first or the cranberry four, but not cranberry first? Where we have, whether it's snacking items or it could be potentially even other juice items that have cranberry as an ingredient, but it's not the primary ingredient. There's a lot of things the innovation team continues to work on, but I think it's all based on that original innovation of taking something that was, used to be in the kitchen only, making your own sauce out from scratch into a can that has become, particularly this time of year, a beloved centerpiece of most of the holiday gatherings that we all participate in.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got to ask now, what is your favorite? Do you prefer the whole berry or just the straight sauce?
I hate to pick favorites. I mean, it's kind of like, when you're a parent, you don't have certainly don't have favorite kids. I just am a cranberry sauce can guy because for me, it's growing up in a family that we only served that for a long time until I can remember when I got a little bit older. My grandparents used to show up with some, whole berry sauces as kids. That's all we had, and I just fell in love with it, and I like to slice it and put, certain size slices on different, not just on turkey, on different, parts of my plate. And yeah, my mom's no longer with us, but my dad would tell you that as a kid, I would even, have to be watched so that I wasn't eating too much cranberry sauce. Not that there's such a thing, but it was certainly, there's no confusion that's where my allegiance came down, was the jellied sauce in a can.
Yeah. So it's just been it was just destiny that you wound up at Ocean Spray. The love just goes back.
Exactly.
One of my favorite events to kind of go to as a grower, we do things with the American Birkebeiner, which is up in Hayward, Wisconsin. So it's this big cross country ski event. And so we have a booth set up there with the Wisconsin Cranberry Growers Association, where we hand out juice samples and sweet and dried cranberries and really get to interact with these athletes. And it's so funny because we have, one year I remember we had a booth set up across from us where it was organic pure maple syrup. And then kind of down the way, it was like these energizing, like Cliff Bar gummy type things. And we'd have people come to our booth, and we'd have the 100% pure juice for them to sample, along with, like, I think the newest flavor of the juice blend that came out at the time too. And we just have people like, well, I don't drink cranberry juice because of all the sugar. And we say, okay, well, we brought this pure juice for you to try. And, just watching them, they're so used to drinking regular cranberry juice, and they do a shot of this, and just kind of watching their faces, and they say, okay, I can kind of understand a little bit now. But I would always come back and say, you're paying $5-7 for a shot of grass. If you can drink grass, I feel like you can get a little bit more health benefits out of a shot of this pure cranberry juice, because I mean, the benefits of it are outrageous. There's so many. So to kind of like interact with people and kind of change their mind on the juices and things like that is really exciting. And then you have people coming up that are just grabbing handfuls of these sweet and dried cranberries because this is great race fuel. Like, I need this for the course. Like, thank you so much for being here. And just going out and sharing your story with these people as well, and letting people know, like, hey, cranberries don't grow in water, and kind of sharing that side of things too.
And that's kind of what campaign, right? With the, what would you do with all that power? And
yes,
it's just, that is, straight up, sort of in your face. Yes, we are powerful, and yeah, we can be tart, maybe too tart for some people, but it brings, energy, power, all the goodness that you need for your day, no matter what you're doing. And, it's like sort of an invitation. What would you do, with all that power? And it's been a really kind of fun thing to work on to see come to life.
Yeah. I've had people send me the new commercial where everybody's sitting around the dining room table and the sauce comes out wiggling. Yeah. And I just have that song constantly just stuck in my head, the wiggle wiggle. So yeah. A+ marketing on that one. So it's definitely, it's working and getting stuck in people's heads.
It's crazy. It was Forbes listed it. It was, I think, this week or last week maybe, as one of the top 30 ads of 2022.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
No, it really was. It was was really well done. The creative team that we had, working on it, and our marketing team here internally, really, I think did a nice job, because it was not many words. There was just the song, and I should say there were no words, right? I mean, it's just music, and at the end, you had the tag that brought it back to the holidays. But it was really really interesting, and we got a lot of comments about, well, where did you find that, these people that could, act like this, and the casting must have been a lot of fun. But it was, something that was meant for social, so that was the way it was filmed. But we actually got a couple of advertisements on television, linear TV, over it as well, and they worked out really well. We got a couple of placements for World Series that we weren't anticipating, but we got a wonderful deal on, so it was hard to pass up. And yeah, just really proud of the team, and we're looking to do more. There's more coming here shortly that I think is as engaging and pretty funny, to be honest.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. So kind of sticking with social media, I feel like we have to talk about TikTok. How
Sure.
how did that viral video, everybody knows it, dog face skateboarding with Fleetwood Mac in the background, how did that impact sales? Because I couldn't find Cranberry on the shelf for like 3 months. It was insane.
It really did have a short term and a long term benefit. The short term benefit was we did see sales increase, and I forget the numbers off the top of my head, Amber, but it was something in the low double digits. It was like 10 or 11% in the following 3 months of the video being out there, and which was, I think, a combination of a few things. One thing, oh wow, I didn't realize Ocean Spray was as approachable as they are, because this seems very, very cool, very hip, I think, for a younger generation. And then secondly, just people were very, at that time, when it sort of broke, that was September-ish, October of 2020. People were really not feeling great about life with the pandemic, and it was just something that lifted people's spirits. They were really kind of excited about just having a moment of positivity. So that those couple of things led to, in the short term, the bounce in sales. The other thing it did, more longer term focus, is it got us into new households, younger households, particularly millennials, that weren't necessarily Ocean Spray users or heavy users in the past. And so and we've maintained a lot of those households, and lost some, but it maintained most. And so that has a long lasting impact. And then the sort of collateral benefit of all this is that it put us in a place where we could just, be a little more edgy, and in a good way, where we wouldn't lose our current users, which are, of course, very important to us, but it also allowed us the chance to speak to a different audience that we've continued to maintain with our social strategy and just our overall marketing communications approach.
Yeah, and I've noticed a huge increase in interest in the growers as well. So even with my smaller reach, I'm having people that I normally wouldn't reach come up to me and want to learn about the growing process, just because they found your TikTok and they want to know a little bit more, and make sure that we're being held responsible as farmers as well for being as sustainable as we are. Because I think the younger generation is more interested in making sure that we're being held accountable for sustainability, and that's a huge interest to them. So if they're going to be going out and purchasing this product, they want to make sure it's coming from a reliable source, and make sure that it's good for not only them but the environment as well.
Right.
So that's another kind of notch in our belt, is as growers and as a cooperative, that we are a very sustainable industry, top to bottom. So that's really cool to teach people, especially through social media, and to reach so many people and say, like, this is cool. Like, look at what we're doing and how we're reusing and recycling and using the entire product. And so that's really fun to talk about, especially on social media.
It is. And, as you had pointed out earlier, you first have to, with people that are not familiar with cranberry farming, get over the hurdle of, no, the cranberries don't grow in water. This is how they're harvested. When you have a wet harvest instead of, dry harvest for our fresh fruit. But the interesting thing is it's such an engaging and intriguing element of what we do, and it seems like it's for people that haven't experienced it, and it may not seem this way for our growers all the time because it is work.
Hmm.
But people that are unfamiliar, it's like magical. It's like, oh
Yeah.
wow, I want to get in waders, and I keep saying to people that approach me on that, friends, family, people that I get introduced to that know I work for the cooperative, to say, well, if you want to get in waders, you can get in waders like when it's harvest time. I'm sure that the labor will be much
Yes.
appreciated. But the other thing after you sort of get over that is that when you share with them that it is a regenerative crop, it's a vine that grows in these bogs, and it's something that doesn't have to be replanted every year. Of course, there's renovations that are going on over time, but these are vines that are regenerative, and they are surprised. They have a sense that no, you need to go out and plant those every year like you would, soybeans or corn, or they just have this perspective, which is not, it doesn't surprise me necessarily, but they really like that idea. And then they, if you sort of get them on the hook with that, just talking about, every acre that we farm, we preserve, another 5-ish acres of wetlands. It, really pulls them in. And so I think being a sustainable crop and, loving that, owning it, doing what we can do to continue to improve upon it, it's not just a good thing for the longevity of our farms, but then also the consumers just really do appreciate it. They do demand it. In fact, customers, of course, as you know, are constantly asking us about, how are we approaching sustainability, and want to make sure we're doing the right things. We also want to balance, and I say this to our team all the time, what can actually happen on the farm and what is reasonable to take on versus, just assuming that, sustainability that the customer and consumers expect that we can get there, overnight. We're starting in a great place because we are a sustainably grown crop. But, there's also expectations that we have to continue to, own our reality with our consumers and our customers about what is the right balance for us to strike, as we are responsible to the bottom line, as well as, making sure that we're doing things right by the planet.
Right. And I always like to tell people as well when this comes up, there's a reason why there's so many multi-generational family farms in our industry. And we always try to leave the land better when we finish it than when we started. So we always try to leave it better for the next generation. And I think once people kind of realize that, like, okay, you are starting the 6th generation, there is a reason why, you're doing better and better every single year. So I think that's a real important key for a lot of people as well.
100%. Yep. And it's that is another element that people don't realize, that cranberries have been around for generations. Most of our farms are passed down through generations. It's almost 3 generations on average, and they have this assumption that, oh, cranberries must have, since they were just in my purview, since like maybe blends, and if they're educated enough to know that sauce goes back, they might tie it back to earlier in the 20th century, but they don't have a view towards, wow, these were back in the 1800s. There's a lot of growers who sort of started coming out of the Civil War in that era, and how they that has so much history. And as I've traveled around, just appreciating seeing photos from, those past years of generations of farmers, and certainly how the technology's changed, but just seeing, how proud people are about their heritage. It's really an engaging item as well, and surprising, I think, for people that aren't as familiar with cranberry farming.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously the passion is what kind of started this podcast and everything too. So
Yeah.
it's working. Oh,
I got to ask you a question.
yeah.
Have you seen the Hallmark movie, A Cranberry Christmas?
No, is that a thing?
Yes. And I'm sure your listeners will probably have to go out and subscribe to this now. I just stumbled across it, and you will you'll get a kick out of it because there's some things that they do right out of the box in the movie. Well, first of all, the cranberry farm is in Maine. And you're like,
Okay.
okay, we don't have any cranberry farms in Maine,
No.
but they are. It's close because Quebec and Massachusetts, but it's they start talking about products and they go into this barn or the shed, where the farm owner is doing some testing, and they have like juice samples and like all these different products that you just wouldn't expect to see like on the farm. And it's cute and it's hilarious at the same time.
Well, I'm gonna have to go check that
Yeah,
out. I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
have any plans after this, so I'm
No,
gonna
no,
go
yeah,
watch.
just
Oh
search.
my,
It's a Hallmark movie. It's like every Hallmark movie. Like you have these people that are, you think they should be in love, but they're not, and they wind up getting in love. But it's a Hallmark movie.
I'm a little offended they didn't ask me to be in it. That's kind of
Exactly. Exactly.
rude.
Yeah.
A couple last final questions. I know you're busy. We got to get you out of here. But going back to TikTok, you did a follow-up TikTok where you were skateboarding. Did you know how to skateboard before that, or is that something you learned just for that video? Because it's pretty impressive.
Oh, wow, thanks. Yeah, and it looks maybe more complicated than it was because the grade was not very steep, although, when you have a camera on your phone, maybe it looks like things are going by faster than they actually are. But no, I mean, I hadn't skateboarded. The way that the story went was when it broke, we got a lot of people saying, "Hey, have you seen this video? It's kind of gaining a lot of steam," and we hadn't. And then we, said we should get engaged with this without taking, sort of air quotes, taking it over. And so the idea was, okay, let's. The gentleman's car broke down, his truck broke down, so we bought him a new truck, as you know, and that sort of really kicked things off in terms of the momentum as it pertains to ocean spray, even though of course it was there because he was holding the bottle. And my team said, do you know how to skateboard? And I said, well, I've skateboarded before. This is back in like junior high school. I don't know if I still know how to do it. I'll give it a shot. Like anything for the brand is sort of my view. And so yeah, we showed up in the parking lot in front of the Lakeville office, and it was nice. It was a nice fall day. The weather was cooperating, and so they gave me a couple of trial runs on it. I didn't fall down. It took like 3 runs to record it, but I didn't wind up on the ground at all. And yeah, I love to ski, so balance is not necessarily a
Sure.
thing for me today. It is as I get older, I find. But it was okay. I did pull it off, and I had people say to me, "Oh, geez, you really are skateboarding," because Mick Fleetwood did one, right? And
Yeah.
you could tell he wasn't skateboarding. And so I said, "Yeah, I actually legit did it." And so that was fun to do. I was so happy that it took off the way that it did, and that to have something like that, the investment that we made was relatively small, and to get 25 billion consumer impressions. There aren't 25 billion people in the world, so most people were exposed to it, several, or if not dozens of times, was just an amazing thing for the brand, and I was super happy about that.
Yeah, well, I was impressed. So I'm even more impressed that you didn't skateboard and that you didn't fall. So that just made it a little bit higher in my book. I know you said it's kind of like picking your favorite child, but if you had the entire Ocean Spray lineup of products in front of you, what's the one that you're gravitating towards the most?
I say this answer all the time, and it's interesting because the more products that I take, a taste, that I'm here, I of course get exposed to more that I wasn't probably familiar with as a consumer before I started with the co-op. But I have to say my tried and true favorite is cranapple juice, because that's what I grew up on. Growing up in New Hampshire, we had great distribution, as Ocean Spray does in New England, but my mom would make it all the time. I drink it year round, and she would have a pitcher of it all the time. At that point in time, she would buy the cranberry concentrate frozen in a can, which we no longer have in the supermarket, but that's how we would make it. And so I grew up on it, so it's nostalgic for me. So I mean,
Sure.
I absolutely do. And but now, having tasted some of the craisins and robe stuff, and probably sometimes that it's a little more indulgent. I love that. I think some of the new products that we're introducing, the new blends. Big fan of the cran elderberry. I'm big fan of cran watermelon. So my tastes there. I gotta stick with, I guess, cran apple, but I do. I get cran apple gets challenged from time to time based on the products that I end up tasting when we're doing samplings for innovation reviews and things like that.
Sure.
What's your favorite
One,
product?
oh gosh. I mean, I'm never going to turn down the chocolate covered craisins. Always got to have those on hand. Those are a
Yeah.
good snack. But I'm a big fan of just regular cranberry juice. Very boring, but that's always my go-to. So gotta go with what you know.
You know what I never had before starting here, in addition to the, there's other products that are new items on the shelf, but an old product that's predates cranberry sauce, just fresh cranberries. I never before I joined with Ocean Spray grabbed a handful of fresh cranberries and ate them. And so the first couple I had, I was like, wow, that's really tart. And they're like, no, I can do this. And so now when I go and I visit our growers, and we are at the bogs, or we're someplace where I can grab a handful, I do. I eat them. I love them,
Mm-hmm.
and that's become a big favorite of mine.
Yeah, especially during harvest, I'm on top of our berry pump. So I just grab handfuls all day long and I don't need
Yeah.
snacks throughout the day because I'm just snacking on cranberries, eating the product, but it gets taken out of my paycheck at the end of the day. So um,
Perfect.
one final question for you before I let you go. If you have fresh cranberries, what is your favorite way to use them in a recipe?
So this is unfortunately the admission that I'm not a fantastic cook. I mean, I'm pretty good. My kids tell me a pretty good New England clam chowder. I like to be on the grill, so it's probably a question I'd have to ask my better half. She is a much better cook than I am, and but I would say, just going um, back to sort of some of the tried and true things that I end up indulging in over the holidays. I love uh, cookies that have cranberries, craisins, and so it's not fresh cranberries, but craisins and
Mm-hmm.
macadamia nuts, white
Yeah.
chocolate.
Yep.
Those we're in a partnership with Crumble Cookies. They make those, and they
They're
are
real
like,
good.
they're out of this world. But then my wife also makes her own version, which I got to say probably have a leg up on those. But say anything in the sweets and muffins category when they're blended as an ingredient. So probably I'd say anywhere down the lines of baking, and then just the not doesn't answer your question around the cooking, but just having fresh cranberries by the handful.
Mhm.
Definitely, I think would be my approach.
Yeah, yeah, I can't argue with that one. So awesome. Well, again, Tom, I know you're a busy guy and I got to let you go here, but thank you so much for taking time to answer all these questions for me. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all that you do for Ocean Spray and for the growers. I think I can speak on behalf of a lot of us and say that we really appreciate you and you're doing a great job. So thank you.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, and thank you for yeah having the chat. It was a lot of fun, and I hope all of your listeners have a fantastic holiday season. And I'm not sure when this will air, but if it's before the holidays, happy holidays and Merry Christmas.
Yes, thank you. Merry Christmas to you as well.
Okay, take care.